I'm back on the coin weight site, which I thought was going to be a field of nothing, but I found a hot patch on and got nice coins for them. First find of the day. It's a very sketchy signal. I don't know what it is. Mystery find number 1. Probably nothing, but it goes in a pocket just in case it cleans up into something exciting, like a seal fob or something. I think it's more like an end of a sort of tube or something, but don't know. In the pocket it goes. Well, the day, so I'll pick up some tiny little pieces. That's at about 10 inches, and it's just a load of old rubbish. But it does pick it up. And it's trying to shower on me, but I think it's going to come and go and not be too bad, so I'm going to chin it out. But I can always run to the car if necessary. Well, I'm wanting that to be the end of a Roman brooch, but it isn't. Interesting, though. How about that for a tiny little rivet? I'm certainly not going to miss anything small. I think that's a tiny bit of silver-plated summit. Windy. Sorry about that. Anyway, just to show that you got to dig it all, I just dug a tiny little bit of birdshot at 52, and then right next to it I got another 52, and it was this, which is a coin. Nowhere to the difference. And look at that. Oh, what a fantastic coin that is. That's an ancient hammered silver for sure. Right by a little bullet. Bullet there, coin there, same signal. Well, that's fantastic. That is a fantastic coin. That is a fantastic coin. Amazing. And I'm going to post this to Instagram because I'd like to do that live. So this coin that I found is actually a silver penny of Charles the Bald. Charles II the Bald was Emperor of France from 823 to 877. He was the son of Louis the Pious, who was in turn the son of Charlemagne the Great. Charles the Bald was the grandson of Charlemagne the Great. He was called the Bald not because he had no hair, because all the pictures that are known of him, he has hair, but he was called the Bald because he was the youngest son of Louis the Pious and didn't have any land. So he was bald of land. His nakedness on the top of his head was the nakedness of his crown. So he was the king without lands. But anyway, he sorted that out, and in the end, he had great lands. Now, the French have always had a system where the whole family inherits what the parents leave them. In the UK, for example, a king of England, the first son would get the crown. But in France, if there were 4 boys, they would split the kingdom in 4. Now, that wasn't a great system for having an empire, because every time a king died with 2 or 3 sons, they'd either fight to the death over the land, or it'd be split into smaller and smaller pieces. And that would happen with farmers, not that they would fight, but the farmer would leave his land to 3 sons, and the farms would get smaller and smaller and smaller, and more difficult to run successfully. So Charles the Bald was a victim of this. So by the time that he got to be a king, there was a situation which led to civil war. And in the end, I suppose because he was the youngest son, he came out on top. Not that people lived very long in those days. And it's quite shocking when you look at the kings to see what age it was when they died, because they were dying in their 20s, in their early 30s. Very few made their late 40s. And it's very rare to have a king who's 50, 60 or 70. Mainly, they seem to drop like flies. Now, I suspect that was because they often got poisoned. If you look at history, the amount of kings that suddenly drop dead out of the blue is numerous. And you think, well, weren't they ill for a bit? Didn't they lie down in bed for a few months before they dropped dead? No, they just bang. One day they were fine, the next minute they're gone. Well, that was because they were poisoned. And it wasn't without reason that kings had food tasters. I mean, they all had food tasters. And it was a big deal because poisoning was rife. To such an extent, in the 1500s, there were special shops where you could buy your poison to poison people. And in the end, I think it was the Pope stepped in and started to ban them in Italy and said you can't have a shop to sell poisons because we know what the people who are going there are going to be doing with them. And of course, that all fits in with Caesar Borgia, Lucrezia Borgia, who were the famous poisoners. But poisoning people goes way, way back. They tried to poison Augustus. It's said that Claudius died from eating poisoned mushrooms. I bet they didn't get into his diet by accident. So being poisoned as the king has a long tradition. And that's why I think a lot of these kings were healthy, went into battle, etc., etc. And then suddenly, whoops, gone. Because, whoops, somebody put something in their food or drink, and that was their lot. But Charles the Bald actually made it to 54, which is, 20 years older than me. So he had a very good run. And this is one of his coins. Now, this is a Dark Age coin. Now, they don't call it the Dark Ages anymore. They call it medieval. Well, when I was a kid, medieval was like Norman the Conqueror onwards. But now, the Dark Ages is also medieval. And medieval starts when the Roman Empire finishes. So what you have in France is the Roman Empire finishes, you get the Merovingians, who are a set of kings, and then you get Charlemagne, who's a Frank, basically a German, who then takes over and almost rebuilds the Roman Empire, certainly of the West. Now, if you go over to the UK, it's called the Dark Ages because they have pretty much no history. So you've got the fall of the Roman Empire, you've got some Jutes showing up, you've got a lot of history that has very, very little sources. So they don't really know what went on. They have names, Offa, Alfred the Great, Kernwolf, etc., etc., etc. But really, once the Roman Empire fell, it gets to a point where they don't really know in great detail what happened until the Anglo-Saxons come along. But after the Romans left, and there was a period where the Romans had gone, but it was still Roman Britain, and then Roman Britain was invaded, they don't really have much of a picture of what went on. They have historical record in terms of archaeology, but there's not much written down about who did what and where they were and what happened. So that's why they're called the Dark Ages, because history is dark. But of course, the Dark Ages is quite a bit less dark than when I was a kid. But these coins are Dark Ages coins. These are pre-1066, in the English mind at least. This is going back into a period where Rome is really still in the memory. And they used to make coins which look like Roman coins because they were kind of reaching back to a golden era where the Romans were in charge. There was basically nobody there. The Roman Empire collapsed, and so did the population. So the whole land emptied and turned back into forest and marshes. And it wasn't until the 11th century, when the population began to grow rapidly again, that whole areas of Europe were cleared again for agriculture. We had a situation where the Roman Empire fell and the population collapsed. Now, whether it collapsed and that's why the Roman Empire fell, or whether it's the other way around, that's open to interpretation. But that population didn't come back to the 11th century. And for some reason, there was a period of 500 or 600 years where the European population was at extremely low levels. And this coin comes from a period where there just weren't that many people in Europe as compared to the Roman Empire, and just wasn't that many people in Great Britain either. And England was really down to very low levels, 2.5 million people. When you get to Elizabeth I, there's 5 or 6 million people. So that is really a low level. And of course, now we have 60 million people. So there's nigh on 20 to 25 times more population today, dropping 25 times more artifacts, and probably a lot more actually, than back then, when there was just a tiny fraction of the people that we have today. And of course, those artifacts are incredibly rare because the people were incredibly rare, and things like coins were even rarer still. So to find a coin like that is totally amazing. And I hope you enjoy looking at it, as I have. Now, 825, well before Alfred the Great. Alfred the Great came to power about 10 years after Charles the Bald died. So you can see the first English king, or certainly the first one that we generally recognize, Alfred the Great, is after this period. So this coin is totally ancient. This is really reaching into a period of history which is incredibly remote, more remote than the Roman history, which is well written up. Now you see on the reverse of this coin, the logo, if you want to put it that way, of Charlemagne. I'm not sure what else you would call it, but that symbol on the back there, that logo means it's from the Carolingian dynasty. And when you see that, that could be Charlemagne, it could be his sons, or it could be his grandchildren. That stamp is the stamp of that dynasty. So when I saw that, I was incredibly excited. So this silver penny is 1200 years old. And because it's French, it's called a denier, but we would know it in the UK as a silver penny. Very, very similar size, shape, and form. And that shape was all across Europe. It's the same pretty much in shape and format as in Italy, Germany, Holland, France, all the way out into places like Hungary. The penny was the basic monetary unit. Well, just did a live dig, forgot to press the record button, but this is what we got, a load of junk, so you didn't miss anything. Well, there's a nice little pot leg. Of course, things like handles and legs and rims, they survive better than the rest of the body. So this is what gets left after the plough, the pot leg. It's blowing really hard, sorry about that. And that is an old spindle whorl, a really old spindle whorl. Very happy with that. A lovely ancient early medieval hammered, and now an early spindle whorl, really good. So about the wind, guys. It's pretty blowy out here, sorry to say. Oh! And my wind cover's come off as well. Aha! Well, this has got to be in shadow because the wind is howling on my back. And this is just a bit of plate, maybe not. Oh no. Got mounting holes there, 1, 2, 3. So this is going in the pocket, just in case it is something. But I think that's a bit of spoonage. Teaspoonage. But it could be wrong, but it's going in the pocket. Where's Wallace? I found Gromit. Now I don't get excited by that anymore because this is France and gold coins aren't often gold. In fact, never have been ever gold once for me. And that's a 1 franc. Good for 1 franc, it says. Commerce and industry. 1924, inflation money, not gold. Two coins, one wonderful and one pretty good too, but about 600 years between them. And right next to it this, which I thought was going to be a shotgun cap. Still could be a shotgun cap. And yes, it is a shotgun cap. Yeah, out, sharp. Yes, it is a shotgun cap. It's sharp. So I've got an outline, don't know what it is. It's chunky, probably lead, but we're going to go down and discover it together. Now that is where it is. It kind of looks ring-like to me, but that's probably just an... Oh, it's bigger than I thought it was. And yep, that's definitely junk. Well, here we go. Done so many live digs, and none of them have turned out. And you won't have seen them. Occasionally I put a live dig in, which is a failure. But this is a pretty good contender. Although I've been digging nothing but blasted foil and silver paper just now. That should be out, and it is. Ooh. Not far out. I can't see it, and that's always a bad sign. That's it. There. Is that a spindle whorl? I think it is. There we are, live dig Celtic ring money. What could be better? I think that's what it is, spindle whorl, that's my guess. Yeah, there you go. Spindle goes through there. Spindle whorl, second of the day. This is... could be old. Yeah, I would say it's not... maybe not. Well, they're all old, but there's old and there's not old. I would say that was a later one, a more modern one. Well, of course, hammered silver makes the whole hunt. Getting a bit tired now, but I will push on for another couple of hours, I think. Well, I quickly knew this was a bit of iron before I dug it up, but I thought I'd dig it anyway. That's our sort of three-way tying thing. I rather like that. That's going in the bag. Well, now that is a medieval road, without a doubt. So I'm going to go down it if I can. And if I can dig it. Not much point finding stuff you can't dig it, but let's see how we get on. At last, a coin. A fairly bashed up one, look at that. Very rarely do I find a coin that's been smashed like that. I mean, it takes a huge knock to split a solid copper coin up and roll it like that. Weird. Might be interesting, this one, when we have a look at it closer and get it cleaned up. Well, pity that's not a big silver coin. It didn't even make my heart jump. I'm getting used to it. Well, this is the mudlark in me coming out. That is a China milk bottle. I'm sure of it. Yeah, it couldn't be anything else, can it? A white child's toy milk bottle. Well, guess where I am? I'm right by the car. There it is. And guess what just happened? Yes. That just happened. It's always right by the car. And this is an interesting one. Don't think I recognise this coin. Not an oldie. Oh, there you go. 100 somethings. Francs. 100 francs. Wow, that is inflation money. No wonder they threw it away. Anyway, that's it from me on this hunt, and probably up until Christmas as well, sadly. But I think I should have enough videos to keep you busy once or twice a month. Not once or twice a month, once a week or twice a month. You know, one every week, one every 2 weeks. Anyway, I've got no sugar in my brain. I've been on this field for hours. Anyway, so there's enough to go up to Christmas, and then I'll be out again making more videos. So, until I see you next time, thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe and like. See you soon.